name's Ed, I'm VFX Product Manager for Vicon, and for the last 40 years we've built motion capture systems, which you may have guessed from the awfully cryptic name, specialise in capturing motion. Basically, it's about empowering creators to create digital characters who are imbued with realism and character. And that might sound like a really simple thing, but if you imagine something as simple as some dude with a microphone walking around in circles, that might seem like a relatively simple task for an animator. But there's a lot of subtlety and nuance that comes with how a person moves. You can tell a lot about a person's mood by how they carry their shoulders. You can tell a lot about how much they ate the night before by how they're carrying their legs. There's a lot of subtlety that comes through how we move. We can almost think of the way we move as being a fingerprint in motion. It tells you a lot about this character. And to imbue all that into a character that's animated can take a lot of time. This is where motion capture comes in, because within a few moments we can capture a person's individual movements, complete with the gravity and the weight and the character that they carry in a fraction of the time that it would take to do that by hand. And what we're going to do today is give you a quick demonstration of the technologies involved and how we bring these characters to life. So first and foremost, we're going to start with Gina. So Gina is currently presented by a cloud of points. What you see on the suit that she's wearing are these retroreflective markers. Each of those has been tracked by the Vicon cameras you see above you. So these are custom cameras. These are built specifically for motion capture. They're tracking the positions of each of these markers, but that's just 2D data. So what the important thing that our software does is turn that 2D data into 3D solve. So that means we can track these objects in 3D space. Now, as cool as a cloud of markers is, it doesn't really give us anything that we can actually work with. It doesn't give us a character. It doesn't give us something that we can bring into our game. So the first part of the process is to turn these lovely points into a character. So if we could go into an A pose, please. And Mitch, if we could please start our lovely range of motion. So what we're essentially going to do now is inform the software, which is called Shogun Live. Good to go. We're going to inform the software of this person's range of motion, as in the extent that they can move to. And what this is doing is giving the software a sense of what this person can do. We then use these algorithms that we produce within the software to give us a skeleton that then represents this character in 3D space. So this is the process that turns what is initially just a bunch of cloud data into a character that we can work with, that can emote, that can interact with other items. And we'll show you some demonstrations of that in a moment. Now, it may not surprise you to learn that Gina's done this a few times. Everyone's motion is a little bit different. We try not to dictate exactly what people do, but essentially the more you do this, the more confident you get and the better solve as a result. So what we have now, if Gina could please move around the space, in real time we have a fully solving 3D character that was set up within just a few seconds. The idea of this is we don't want to give these artificial barriers of getting this data to customers. It's not just about high accuracy, it's about high accuracy at speed, because the quicker you get data, the quicker you can iterate, and the quicker that you can empower creators to make important creative decisions that are going to impact the output of their work. So characters are all well and good, but they're only as fun as the things they are interacting with. So we also have in this scene a few props. If we could ask Gina to please pick up our violin. So what you see now is on the screen, the marker points, some of those are turning red. Essentially, a red point represents a marker that can no longer be seen by the camera. The way our algorithms work is they can essentially detect where those markers would exist based on the existence of other markers. So the more things that Gina would do, let's say you wanted to occlude a bunch of your mark. Can I ask you to get on the floor and roll around a little bit, please? Of course. Sorry. Violins are expensive, you don't want to risk breaking them. But essentially, if Gina gets completely on the floor and starts doing motions that are blocked by the cameras, we don't want that to stop creators. We don't want to tell people, motion capture's great as long as you don't lie down. So even in cases like this, where a series of the markers are completely occluded, it's not affecting the data. We're still getting a really solid track, because the markers we can't see, we can still calculate the position of based on the markers that we can see. I think that's a bit too much cardio or calisthenics for one day. So we have a perfectly good actor. We're now going to start interacting with props. So we can track props and people real time. All this data can be streamed straight to Unreal. It can go straight to Motion Builder. But one of the things that distinguishes what we do is our emphasis on finger tracking. So although many solutions are available for tracking hands and fingers, and we support many of these, we also give people the option to track fingers out of the box. So if you don't want to be messing around with other products, you just want to capture your character full body and fingers. Can we zoom in on the fingers, please, Mitch? Now, despite the fact that these are really small parts of the body, where there's a higher chance of occlusion of markers, you're essentially introducing more challenges, we are still getting super good data. So Gina can intersect her fingers, she can do all these complex movements, and again, maybe 10, 20 years ago, this wasn't super important because we didn't have the fidelity in game engines to really bring this stuff to life. But today, the modern consumer expects realism, they expect high accuracy, and that's what we're designed to deliver with our software and hardware. Now, as great as it is to see one person moving around the scene and interacting with props, I think we know what we're all here for. It's a show of abject violence at 10 in the morning. So if I could please ask Victor to enter the scene. A round of applause for Victor, please. So Victor is a character that we set up earlier, who's currently broken his leg. So even though Victor was a character that we calibrated earlier, he's been out of the volume for 10 or 20 minutes. Within a couple of seconds of coming back into the volume, we have that solving perfectly again. So the idea is that you don't always have to go through these manual processes of resetting up characters when they come in and out of the volume. So we can see we're getting really good motion, really nice data. But what we really want to see is how we can push this to the limit. The one thing that we never want to tell customers is don't do that. We want to give them as much of a platform to bring their creations and their ideas to life as possible. And sometimes that involves things that have been historically very challenging for motion capture, such as two people having a fight. If I could please invite Gina back onto the scene. I didn't say go, but it's totally cool if that's where you guys are at in your relationship. We're not going to judge. But essentially what this is really important for is we are visualizing this data in real time. This isn't data that we have to save, reprocess, view in the engine. We can do all this on the spot, and that empowers creators to iterate. They can tell Gina, give a bit, wow. I always forget how enthusiastic these, I promise you they're friends and they get on outside of motion capture. But essentially what this means from a director's perspective is that I have more freedom. I can tell these guys, could you have a bit of a headlock going on? Or a really nice, okay, headlock and hug, they both work, it's totally cool. But you'll see, all those technologies we spoke about earlier regarding the marker placement, regarding the full character solve, these are all coming together to give creators the power to envision and respond to what they see in real time. We're not telling them to clean this up in post. All this can be done on the spot. And what this fundamentally means is that when you buy a Vicon system, you are getting that access to quality. You are getting that platform that allows you to not just achieve your goals, but to exceed them and to push our technology to the next level. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy GDC. Cheers, folks.